Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Bayou Bets. This one for Monday, May the 23rd, here on bet.nola.com. I am Zach Ewing, along with Jim Derry to my left and Spencer the Guru to my right. We are here to recap a wild weekend in sports and also to look forward to what's coming ahead. Just seems like, you keep thinking, oh, it's going to slow down. It's going to slow down. Sports doesn't slow down anymore. There's no such thing.
No, it does
not. And by the way, it's a great time to get in on the action. As always, you can go to NOLA.com/Caesars and get your $1,100 bet insurance for new users only for our listeners. Promo code NOLACZR, or you can just go to NOLA.com/Caesars, and that promo will be that will be automatically loaded in there for you. So basically you get a bet. If it doesn't work out, you get a second chance at that bet. So kind of cool. And that's a good way to get started. So go ahead and do that. We're also brought to you by Tulane Doctors. Innovative research, inspired patient care. Visit TulaneDoctors.com. A lot going on this weekend. Like Epicenter finished second in the Preakness, and that was like the 12th biggest story of the weekend, it seemed like to me.
Yeah, I have 4 words for you, Zach. Damn you, Mito Pereira.
Jim, how much did you lose?
I mean, the worst part is I won a decent amount on – I had JT pre-tournament. He was one of the favorites that I mentioned in the column that we liked. Talked about it with Andy Black during the week. So I wish I would have bet a little bit more on him, but I got so aggravated that somehow Mito Pereira was in almost all my lineups, okay, all my DraftKings lineups. And I just thought I bet him. And when I went and looked at my bets on Saturday, like he wasn't in my starred lineups or whatever. And so I forgot to bet him before the time. So then I was ticked off. So I overcompensated like really bad gamblers do.
Oh, you went on tilt.
I absolutely went on tilt. So JT covered basically all of my dumb Mito Pereira bets and a couple others. But I had what else did I have? I had Rory finishing in the top 10, like we said to do in best bets. So that helped out a little bit. And then I had Tommy Fleetwood top 40, and he was actually in the top 10. He might have been top 5. He was top 10.
I think he was tied for 5th. Yeah. In fact, let's look at the leaderboard. We're talking PGA Championship. Yeah, you see Tommy Fleetwood tied for 5th. And for those who didn't watch it, you missed out, first of all, because it was incredibly dramatic. But Mito Pereira led this thing basically from
just hit a 3-iron. Just hit a 3-iron in the middle of the fairway.
Early on Saturday, he took the lead and he held it until the 18th hole Sunday. It rotated between up as many as 3 strokes and down to. In fact, I think at one point he was tied for the lead, and then he opened back up a 3-shot lead, and he comes to 18, leading by 1. And now Mito did not play particularly well yesterday for all 18 holes, but he kind of grinded through, and it was that kind of tournament, and he still had a 1-shot lead going to 18, which is a tough hole. And then he hit driver for one of the first times all day and did not hit a good shot, but also got extremely unlucky in that creek is not very wide. I mean, you could hit a bad shot there and be okay if you go over the creek. Like, it's not going to be easy, but you can at least get your bogey and get in the playoff. But it bounces right in the creek.
He didn't need to do that.
He didn't need to do it. He just it bounces right in the creek, penalty shot, then hits a okay shot out of the rough to get near the green, but then a poor chip and all. Long story short, it was a double bogey, and not only he goes from leading the tournament to not even in the playoff with Justin Thomas and Will Zalatoris at 5 under. And by the way, you think you had a bad weekend, Jim? Did you see the guy we wrote about?
It wasn't that bad altogether in the grand scheme of things, but
Circa Sports. Well, okay, you had a bad beat on that bet. Circa Sports out in Las Vegas, which is a downtown. It's a newer casino. Also, I think you can bet on it mobile in Colorado. It's not in very many states. They had a guy who's a professional bettor, $500 on Mito at 300 to 1. And so he stood to win 150 grand on this thing. And that 150 grand is like, and now the creek bed there in Tulsa is no longer dirt. It's just the money that this guy would have won.
No, that just kind of makes you sick. I wonder if he could have cashed out. I saw something about, there was some soccer tournament this weekend. A guy had a $125 bet or a $100 bet or something like that, $150 bet on on soccer and could have taken 125 grand cash out. He was offered 125 grand cash out, didn't take it, and the team he bet on lost. You know what I'm talking about? Zach, you're a soccer guy.
It was Liverpool to win the Premier League.
Liverpool.
Yesterday was the last day of the Premier League, and he bet on
Why
Liverpool.
Why wouldn't you take the 125 grand?
Yeah, a couple of things here. So it was to Liverpool to win the quadruple, and I'll go soccer nerd on you just for like 30 seconds.
Okay.
So every country in Europe has your regular league championship. They also have a cup championship that's like an in-season tournament you play. England has 2 of those. And then there's also a European-wide competition, okay? And so they're the Champions League. And so Liverpool was, because they're in England and there's 2 cup competitions, they had already won both of those. They also are in the final of the Champions League, and they were in second place in the regular league in England. And so the quadruple would be if they won all 4 championships. Has never happened before. A few teams have won 3. No team's ever won 4. And so you could bet on, will Liverpool win all 4? They've already won 2. They're in the final of the Champions League next weekend. And so they've still got to win that, by the way. But then they had to win this was going to be the hard one because they were in second place behind Manchester City. All Manchester City had to do was win on Sunday to clinch the title. The games are going on at the same time. Man City is losing 2-0, 75th minute, only 15 minutes left. And Liverpool also has to win. They're tied at the time. So Liverpool scores. They go ahead, and it looks like Liverpool's going to get it. Man City's still down 2-0. That's when the guy had the opportunity to cash out. So he's only 15. He's only 15 minutes away from getting the third of these 4 titles. Then they would still have to win next week. Man City scored 3 goals in 5 minutes and won the game. I mean, which they're a good team, but you don't expect the team to score 3 goals in 5 minutes.
It goes to show, man. If you got a chance to cash out a big ticket, to me, there's no reason to be greedy on stuff like this. Uncle Big Nick, he likes to gamble. He says he'd even take the cash out. I mean, so would most people. I mean, come on. So what was he going to win if he doesn't take the cash out?
I can't remember what it was. I mean, I think it was 200 grand or something. So he was looking at better than 50% of it.
Come on, man.
And I gotta say, I mean, this professional gambler, and he has a great Twitter thread on. Go to bet.nola.com. I wrote a little story about it.
At least bet a live thing and bet some kind of live bet.
I mean,
and insure it or something.
This guy's name is Rufus Peabody, and he had an opportunity to hedge and chose not to. And that's listen, these pro guys are all about the numbers, and so you look at what numbers you could hedge at, what chances you have of winning the tournament, and he may have said, mathematically, it's not worth it, and I'm fine with that decision.
Yeah.
Now, it didn't work out. Mito hit it.
I was a little. I actually had a decent cash out on Rory to win the tournament, and I didn't take it. It wasn't. It's a whole different thing. I mean, I bet like $40, and I think the cash out was at one point it was like 120 something, and I debated taking it, but Rory looks good in the beginning. It was hard to believe that. If I was on deal or no deal, yeah. Well, look. Let me tell you right now. Somebody offers me 10 grand. I don't care what the big prize is. I'm taking 10 grand. You know what I can do with 10 grand?
I'm not here to talk about things that only last 5 minutes with Jim. All right.
Oh boy.
It's what? This show is much longer than that. This show is
also a family show.
Well, let's move on from the PGA. It was exactly. It was a great tournament. And I think it sets up for a great U.S. Open because you're going to see a lot of these same names at Brookline, and maybe a couple others. He's Scotty Scheffler at the bottom, misses the cut. Colin Morikawa, I think Brookline sets up better for him. You're going to see a good leaderboard there next month as well. So we'll be talking more golf.
Well, ask Uncle Big Nick how he did in his one and done this week.
I'm sure Uncle Big Nick will answer. In the meantime, after the tournament was over, it was time to flip over to basketball. And all of the steam was on the Mavericks last night. I mean, that number was moving from 1.5 to 2 to 3 to 3.5. But Jim, you called this one right. The Warriors. One thing that surprised me about this series, because I really thought the Mavericks would have a chance. Like, I'll admit, I didn't necessarily pick them to win. I thought it would go 7 games. I suppose it still could. But I did not see Dallas' lack of ability to rebound the ball. The Warriors space the floor. They are absolutely murdering the Mavericks on the offensive glass. And Golden State shot the ball well. But even when they miss, it's like they're getting the ball back. There was game 2 was really where the series turned, in my opinion. And Spencer, there was one point in game 2 between the third and fourth quarters where and Dallas went to sleep offensively too. But Golden State scored 1.74 points per possession for more than a quarter for like 19 minutes. Like, that's insane. That's like sending an 87% free throw shooter to the line on every possession. 1.74 points per possession, because they're getting every time that they get a shot off, they're either making it or they're getting the rebound.
Most definitely. Yeah, they're just fired on all cylinders right now. And I was mad at myself last night. I was kind of buying into the Dallas hype where I was going to bet Golden State again, because I was like, shoot, I'm not really feeling Dallas. Like, I think Golden State could do it, but everyone kept saying Dallas. So I was like, let me hold off on this one. And then, yeah, exactly. I should have faded the public and gone with my gut and picked Golden State to cover, because at one point they were 6.5 on the live betting. And then the next time I looked, they were favored. And then at that point, they just pulled away. So yeah, they're just so much deeper than Dallas. I mean, even Andrew Wiggins is like, he's stepping up.
He's been unbelievable.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, they don't have anyone to match up with.
Pool Party and Klay Thompson. But I mean, Andrew Wiggins has been, he's an X factor there. And then of course Draymond. So they've got 5 guys there Luka's amazing, but Dallas just doesn't have enough to hang with all that Golden State's got.
Paid the public, Zach. I mean, it's what it comes down to.
It seemed like everybody's money was on Dallas. It was public. It was sharp. I mean, everybody liked Dallas.
I couldn't believe that line. I was like, how?
For me,
how was
I
that?
bet him twice. Yeah, and Spencer, you had a short little window there towards end of the first quarter to about the middle of the second quarter, where the line kept favoring Golden State, kept getting better and better and better. And at one point, I said, you know what, I'll take them again. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But Dallas just doesn't have anyone that can match up with Draymond Green and Wiggins. I mean, the 2 guys. Dallas doesn't have anybody like that, and so those guys are cleaning up. Now you could bet Wiggins over in game 4, and you'll probably get hammered for doing it. But I mean, really, if you've been betting the Wiggins over, because like I said, there's just nobody that can match up with him. So I may partake in that, but I don't know. I think Dallas will win a game. I do think they'll win one game because they're not the kind of team that's just going to give up. And so I expect them to come out with a lot of fire tomorrow night and play well. And unless the public's all over, if the public's all over Dallas, I'll either stay away or bet a little bit on Golden State like I did last night. But I kind of like Dallas in this last one to not give up. Then I think they'll lose in game 5.
It doesn't feel like a sweep. And I suppose I've probably been disrespecting the Warriors a little bit the whole postseason because of what they've done. Because of the guys they have on the team, that they have that attitude, that pedigree, that when push comes to shove, they're going to come through.
Yeah.
But so maybe they'll sweep them. It just doesn't feel like they're that much better than Dallas. And I'll get to this in a minute, but I think I don't like them against either one of the East teams either. I mean, I really don't. And maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe I'll be wrong the whole way. But the Eastern Conference Finals continue tonight at 7:30. Yeah, and this series,
I really don't like Golden State against Boston. I really don't like Golden State against Boston at all. They'll have to be super consistent, which they have not been. But Boston has the bruiser kind of mentality where Boston can get them. I'm not so sure about Miami, and they have health issues right now. Hero's not going to play tonight. We know Jimmy Butler is banged up, so he's supposed to try to play. But I don't know about the Heat against Golden State, but Golden State does not want to face Boston. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I'm going to keep my mouth shut on tonight's game just because everybody knows I love the Celtics team. I think that they're built to win a title, and they've just, like you said, Jim, they just haven't been consistent. I mean, that game 3 loss, pretty inexcusable. To come home, have a chance to take control of the series, and really just lay an egg. They had 24 turnovers. They didn't shoot it well. They just really handed that game to the Heat. Spencer, what are you thinking tonight?
Yeah, tonight's the night where Jason Tatum's got to bounce back and deliver a statement. I mean, he's got to show that he's the best player in this series. I mean, so far Jimmy Butler's done his thing. But yeah, he's a little banged up, and then Hero's out. So this is their chance to do it. I mean, they're 7-point favorites, so it's like if they don't win this, the series is probably over. I mean, I don't see them being able to rattle off 3 in a row. So, but I'm liking them tonight, though. It'll be tough for them to cover. It's 7. That's kind of wide there, but I definitely think they'll win the game. And for the best bet today, I had a parlay of the Celtics winning as well as Tatum getting over 27.5 because I'm thinking Tatum's going to really be out to show that he's a true superstar, and that if he is that, which I believe he is, he's going to go off tonight and lead them to the win.
Yeah, I mean, you say that 7's a lot of points, but if you look at the Celtics now, they swept Brooklyn, and most of those games were actually pretty close, but they swept them. Against Milwaukee, Boston's wins were by 23 points, 8 points, 13 points, and 28 points in Game 7. And then they beat Miami by 25 points in Game 2. I mean, when they get going, like they're either really good or they sort of struggle, and it's going to be a close game. And so I don't mind laying the 7. But again, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'm staying away from this one because I do have so much piled on the Celtics and futures, Jim.
I think that the public is all over Boston tonight, and so this is one of those, to me, games where people don't like taking the underdog with the spread. They like taking the money line for the big payout. So here's what I think. I think Boston wins. I don't think they win by 7. I'm gonna fade the public with that. I'm gonna take the Boston money line. So I don't like the -350, so I parlayed it. I did the public is all over the under because of the Heat issues. So I parlayed Boston money line with the over 206, and then I wanted to throw one more in there at a good price. And I like Oladipo tonight and Adebayo, so I picked between one of them. I picked Adebayo. I think he was over 17.5 because I don't think Jimmy Butler is going to be at full strength. Somebody's going to have to pick up slack, and so there you go. There's my 3-leg parlay, and that's kind of what I like tonight. I think it pays plus 350.
All right.
And I had it for small. It's just something to kind of keep my interest. But I do not like laying the 7 at all with Boston.
It is a lot of points.
Everybody seems to be on that. That's a lot of points. And it's one of those things, too, where you get a backdoor cover on that. And,
Yeah, you do. I mean, I think the danger in betting the underdog here is that, like I said, Boston has won blowouts, and it feels like one of those games where Miami had, look, they came to Boston to get a split. They already got that. And I'm not saying they're not going to get greedy and try tonight, but if it starts going south and they're down by 10 at halftime, they're down by 15 in the third quarter, Butler is banged up, they might just say, listen, let's get back to Miami. We're 2-2. We're good.
I'm going to tell you this. The pricing is weird for me. It's like Vegas is begging you to either take the Miami money line or just suck it up and go -7. That's why I find something very strange. It's very weird. I get weird vibes. I'm with Spencer. I think, and I think Tatum could have a good game too. I didn't necessarily. That's a little bit too many points. The last time I took a high player point total like that was, I took Luka last week when he scored like 20 in the first half, and then he only scored 4 in the second half, and I got bitten. So I'm not a big player prop guy, so I'd rather take an off-brand player prop if that makes any sense. If you're going to take one thing, I'd say suck it up and lay the -350 because the -7 is too much. But that's not really a value bet, so I can't advocate betting just that.
Yeah, and so Spencer likes Tatum over 27.5. Jim, you're on Adebayo. And I like that because somebody's going to have to score points for Miami. Somebody's going to have to score. But if Butler's banged up and Hero's not playing, even if they lose the game, they're still going to score at least 80 points. Somebody's got to score those points. So interesting too to look at the series prices. Obviously, the Warriors up 3-0 are basically an unspeakably big favorite there. But it's interesting. The other one, the Heat up 2-1 and sort of on serve as far as home court advantage, are only -115 favorites here. And so if Boston wins tonight, that tells you, of course, Boston will probably be the series favorite going into Game 5.
Yeah, definitely. This is their time to kind of take back control of it. It's been one of those back and forth kind of things, and so this is tough. I mean, I would probably still go with Boston, though. I think they'll be able to ultimately get it done in 7. But yeah, this is a fun series here. But Miami's got to get healthy. Jimmy Butler, they need to get him back 100%, and Hero's got to be back. If those injuries linger, then Boston might be able to get it done in less than 7.
There is absolutely zero value on any of these 4 teams. You can't bet any of these. Even the Mavericks are 30-1. It's never happened before. So why is it going to happen now? And why is it only 30-1? It's never happened before. It's not going to happen here. And the Celtics are down 2-1, and they're minus 105, which makes no sense. I'm not, if you like one of them and you want to bet it, whatever, but there is zero value on any of those lines.
The one thing I'll say, and again, you guys are going to laugh at me, but I kind of like Boston to go ahead and win in 6, basically meaning they win 3 in a row at plus 280. If you think they win tonight and they would have game 6 back at home and they'd be pretty big favorites, that really comes down to game 5. Could they go back to Miami, win game 5? Miami with the injury problems, not that Boston doesn't have any injury problems, but there might be a little bit of value there. If I was going to bet anything, it's plus 280. It's Spencer. You said Boston was going to win in 7. That's plus 320. Of course, that would mean winning game 7 on the road. Not to say they couldn't do it.
You'd be better off betting if you like Boston. Bet 100, and let's just use 100. I'm not advocating to bet $100. Okay, but if you got plus 260 and 6 and 320 and 7, you'd be better off betting $100 on each of those. If you hit the 260 bet, you're going to win 160, which gives you a plus 160. And if you hit the 7 bet, you're going to win 320 minus 100 is 220. So either way, you're going to get better odds on them winning in 6 or 7 than betting them to win in 5. You see what I'm saying? That's a way better value. That's a way better value than
I think it's actually closer than you're thinking, but it's pretty close to an even money, and you'd get minus 105. Yeah, I mean, you definitely play around with it because they obviously can't win in 5. So betting on them to win in 6 or 7, as long as they win, you're going to make money. But
so why the series odds in what they are? That doesn't make any sense.
I don't think it's as big of a difference as you're thinking, but I'd have to sit down and do the math.
I thought you said it was 260 and 320.
It is. It's 260 and 320. But if you had to bet both and you only won one of them,
if you win the 260 bet, you're going to win 160.
But you would have bet 200 to win that 160, correct?
No, you bet 100 to win. You bet 100 on each. Okay, so you're gonna get $260 for that $100 bet. Forget about the 100 you put down. Then you subtract 100 from it, and you get a 160. So you're getting plus 160. It doesn't. You see what I'm saying?
Well, but
you're only going to lose the 100.
The difference is if they lose the series, you lose twice as much. That's where the difference comes.
That's correct.
Well, that's where
half. But either way, you're still getting that plus 160 is the worst you're going to get, no matter how you bet it. So if you're going to bet $100 on the series and bet 50 and 50, it's the same thing.
But then if you bet 50 and 50, you're only winning $80, right?
Yeah, but you're still getting better odds, though. Whatever you want to bet it however you want to bet. You're still getting a better value.
It's very close, but I think you're right. Yeah, it's very close, but I think because you'd have to half your bet anyway. That's where we're at. Here's where there may be some value. Speaking of betting a couple of different futures, like the Heat and Celtics are both plus 340. I've said this already. I don't like the Warriors against either team. I just don't. And maybe I'm disrespecting them. Spencer, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, I like the Warriors to win the finals. I mean, there's no value here, obviously, with them being in the negatives there, being the clear-cut favorite at minus 160. But there's definitely value to be had if you're a believer in the East teams. I mean, I think it's worth throwing a little something on both because while Golden State right now looks like the clear-cut favorite, they have been streaky. I'll admit that. I mean, I like them to win it all, but if they could get cold shooting and against those hard-nosed defensive teams like the Heat and Celtics, it could be trouble. So, yeah, if it's one of those things, like I'm probably not going to mess with either East team because I've got a futures bet on Golden State and I'm riding with them to go all the way. But I could see that there could be some value with the Heat or Celtics, and there's just no value right now with the Warriors.
And by the way, if you think Dallas could somehow come back in this series, I'd just go ahead and take them at 80-1 to win the title, because it would be like the 2004 Red Sox. If they pull that off, there ain't no stopping them.
I agree with that. Spencer, let me ask you, what price did you get Golden? Not what you bet, but what price did you get Golden State?
Oh yeah, I got them back over a month ago now. I think I got it like in the first round when they were doing good against Denver. I got them at plus 545, I believe.
Well, I'm gonna make a suggestion. You're in a perfect spot to hedge. Then, I would put a little something on both the Heat and the Celtics, to make sure that you can't lose. That's just
gotta limit that risk, Jim Derry. That's his model.
I'm just saying, if you got plus 5 something, there's no reason not to bet both of those things. I mean, both the Celtics and the Heat, even if it's just a little bit, even if it's just enough to cover your bet, you can't lose. So that's my suggestion to that. If I had the Warriors at plus 5 something, I'm envious, because I think that's a great. Looks like a great bet now.
Sure it is now, yeah.
You got to hedge, I think, in some kind of way. And I'm just gonna throw a number out there, but if you bet $20, you can bet $10 on the Heat and $10 on the Celtics, and you're either gonna break even or you're gonna win money. I mean, you can't lose. So I always like scenarios where I can't lose. I like to do it in golf. Obviously, I did the opposite this week, and Nito gave me a nice little face burger to eat.
He reminded you why you do that in the first place.
I keep telling him I'm much better than I used to be, but I sit, and I know people out there have done the same thing, where I think after I bet it, and even when it's looking great, and then about an hour into it, you're like, that was a lot of times, even when I win, I'm like, that bet was dumb. I mean, and it happens. I mean, even after I'm trying to teach myself. Somebody asked me if I called myself a professional bettor last night. I said, absolutely not. But I would like to consider myself a semi-professional bettor. I mean,
you're at least an informed bettor, right?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't spent $1 of my own money this entire year, thanks to our friends at Caesars. I haven't spent $1 of my own money this year. That doesn't mean at some point I'm not going to have to refresh, and then I am going to have to spend money, but I'm not winning.
And just to be clear for everybody, Jim's talking about the bonuses Caesars was offering at sign up, not some backdoor deal we're getting. That's not what's going on here. Yeah, it's just the regular bonus money. Everybody else,
not a backdoor deal. Correct.
Yeah.
And then it didn't hurt that I hit Scotty Scheffler on Super Bowl Sunday and hit the Rams, and I mean all the things that I won, and then hit Braun, JJ Spawn. I'm sorry. A few weeks ago for a stupid bet. And so I've hit got lucky and hit some big ones. But when you make that dumb bet, and again, this is the thing that you try to avoid more than anything. If you make an informed bet, you go through and you go through analytics, and you go through everything, and you lose a bet, fine. I mean, okay, this is what I thought was going to happen. I spent 10 minutes on it or 20 minutes on it, whatever. I did my analytics, but when you do some willy-nilly thing to try to catch up to something or you try to hedge something that doesn't need hedging, you're not hedging the right way, and you're not informed, you just go in and you're not even thinking, and you go make that bet and you press it real quick. I mean, it's just a dumb bet. I mean, like the other, I hit my computer. I'm getting so excited. But you got to stay away from this dumb bet.
Sometimes live bets are more trouble than they're worth. You got to be real careful with them, because you do make them emotionally sometimes. So, no, that's how it goes.
It happens.
You're watching Bayou Bets on bet.nola.com, powered by Caesars Sportsbook, sponsored by Tulane Doctors. Our thanks to them. I'll switch gears here from the PGA and the NBA and talk a little USFL. Breakers take care of business against the Pittsburgh Maulers on Sunday, 26-16, move to 4-2, face another bad team next week in the Michigan Panthers. I got to say, with everything going on this weekend, I did not watch a second of this game.
I missed it too.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, I missed it too, but I was like reading a recap there, and it just seemed like it's kind of an ugly game. It just, I know you watched it, Jim. What did you say? It was kind of ugly. It just seemed didn't. I know they had the pick six, but just didn't seem like a.
Well, they
I know
took
they won, but
they took a fairly big lead, and they just kind of floundering around. I'm less impressed. We talked about going into the weekend how I thought they had to have a really big bounce back game. I expected them to cover. They did. But they're going and they're switching quarterbacks in and out because Orton something's not right with that dude. He looked great the first 3 games, and when you got to switch quarterbacks with a guy who's leading the USFL in passing, you got to wonder about that. So I'm really a little disappointed in this team, and they're 4-2, but they don't look like the best team in the league anymore, and they did 2 weeks ago. So I'm not sure what's going on. The defense, they gave up 16 points. They almost pitched a shutout in the first half, but the second half they just kind of we're just kind of playing to finish. And I didn't like the way they played in the end. And now we're down to 4 weeks left in the season, which is hard to believe. It's this team needs to kick it into gear because again, the USFL has been fun to watch overall, and I've enjoyed them. Watched some of probably 75% of the games, and it's like any other sport. You got to be the team with momentum going in the end, and right now the Breakers don't have that.
Big game next week, by the way. I think it's before New Orleans plays Michigan. Tampa Bay plays New Jersey, and Tampa Bay is the team New Orleans is probably going to have to beat out for the last playoff spot in the South. So,
yep.
Tampa Bay is underdogs. If they lose that one, it's going to become difficult for them to catch the Breakers.
Unless Birmingham goes on a slot or something.
Yeah.
Which isn't like
look
that.
at us. We're dissecting the USFL playoff picture here. And by the way, we've got some more stuff that's going to get us out of our comfort zone here in a minute. But first, the SEC baseball tournament. The other big news of the weekend here locally, LSU swept Vandy in Nashville. And it was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series because it's the last series of the regular season. Saturday's game, after LSU had won Thursday, Friday, Vandy gets out to a lead, and you kind of expect that. A good team is not going to get swept at home. They're going to buck up and get the bats going.
Unless you play Ole Miss at Alec Box.
Well, okay, that's a week old now. You're on old stuff. LSU scored 11 runs in the 8th inning and beat Vandy, just thumped them. I can't remember what the final score was, but it was like 21-9 or something like that, 21-10 maybe. And so because of that, and then Auburn lost, LSU gets the bye in the SEC tournament. They don't have to play the single elimination round tomorrow. And lo and behold, they're the second favorite to win the dang thing. Although I should mention at Caesars, you can get a boost on these LSU odds. I believe that's for today only. You can get them at plus 450 instead of 400. So if you like LSU to win the SEC tournament, you haven't signed up yet. Perfect time to do it. NOLA.com/Caesars. You get that bet insurance as well. You can get LSU at plus 450 to win the SEC baseball tournament.
Don't do it.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that that LSU had leaped up to second. I did the little SEC tournament, like the little look into it with the odds just coming out, and I was like, man, LSU. I was like, after the Ole Miss series, everyone was writing them off, saying they left for dead, and then they sweep Vanderbilt. Now they're back in the mix there. It's just outside of Tennessee. I don't know what to think of the SEC. It's like everybody's pretty good, but it's hard to really peg anyone that's a clear favorite other than Tennessee. But the problem with Tennessee is they're so dominant that there's no value there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Here's the question, Zach. Is it more fun to bet on SC baseball or go play bingo? Because they're both about the same. You're playing bingo. I mean, anybody that tells me they know who's going to win the SEC tournament, unless you say Tennessee, I can live with that. And if you say anyone else other than Tennessee, you're completely guessing and you're playing bingo. And I'll take your
counterpoint.
If you're not betting
bingo
Tennessee,
doesn't
call
have
me. I'll take your bet.
Bingo doesn't have rain delays. So what's more fun than a rain delay in Hoover, Alabama? Happens every year. But anyway, it should be a good tournament. It's always fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Have fun.
It's always fun to watch. And by the way, LSU's got the late game Wednesday. So You know how that goes. They try to squeeze 4 9-inning games into one day. They start at like 10
so
a.m.
stupid. I've covered it
If there's
before.
any extra innings or any rain delays or anything, that last game is supposed to go off, I think, at 8:30. But it's going to be like 10 o'clock by the time they throw the first pitch.
You know what's more fun than doing that for the SEC baseball tournament? Last year, I got to do the NAIA tournament at Segnet Field. And the first day, it was actually kind of chilly. It was wind blowing like 40 miles an hour, and it rained for about 6 hours before they could start the first game. And it lasted for 4 days. That was a whole lot of fun.
Just a stunning endorsement of college.
And Loyola, the top seed, lost their first 2 games, and they were gone. So I'm calling games for teams I've never heard of before. Fun stuff.
Sounds like fun. No, the SEC baseball tournament is a lot of fun. It's totally unpredictable. I wouldn't bet Tennessee either. But like I said, if you do like LSU, do it today because the boost is up there. You get 450 instead of 400. How the Raging Cajuns doing in baseball, Spencer? I honestly have not looked.
Yeah, they were doing a little better. They struggled though. It was kind of like LSU. They got back on track this weekend, but then they had a bad weekend. The week LSU got swept, they got swept too by a Sun Belt team that's good there in Texas State. So it's going to be tough for them to get in that large bid. They're probably going to have to win the Sun Belt tournament to get into the main tournament.
And I'm bringing it up right now to see what the chances of that are. They're the 4 seed. Okay. Again, you just never know with these things. If they beat South Alabama, they play South Alabama on Wednesday. If they win that, then they'll face, it looks like Texas State gets the bye. They're the top seed, so they would have to beat them. And then Tulane is also the 4 seed in the AAC. They were leading that conference for a little while, and the bottom kind of fell out for the Green Wave.
Yeah, I was talking to a good friend of mine. I'll give him a plug. Jerry over at Mandeville Seafood is one of my good friends, and he's a greenbacker. And so we were talking about Tulane today and how the bottom fell out, and how they're just – they're hoping – he's going to Clearwater for the tournament tomorrow. That is a real diehard fan, but I think they open up with Cincinnati. And Tulane they started out, I think 23-4 or something along those lines, 24-4, something super hot. And then just
ended up firing the coach. Amazing.
They just, they've had injuries, and then they tried to play people with injuries that didn't work out. And they've lost some of their pitching, and just it's not worked out for the Green Wave. Hopefully they can turn around and play well in the tournament. Hopefully all of our Louisiana teams can, because to me, Omaha is just the whole road to Omaha is just much, much more fun when we have our Louisiana teams in the tournament.
Oh yeah.
If UL can make it, Spencer, they always put up a fight.
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah, I had a little futures ticket on the Cajuns that I made like really early in the season, so if they could get in, that'd be music to my ears. It was a real long shot, but they had like a little $5 lottery ticket. I'll take it.
Why not?
Spencer, you could have just given me that $5, man.
Play and bingo, baby.
Hey, the Cajuns made it to Omaha before. You never know.
They haven't even made it in the tournament in several years, though. So they're going to have to get to the tournament first, and then we'll see. The LSU softball team and the Raging Cajun softball team, by the way, both went out this past weekend at the regional level. UL was in Clemson, and LSU was in Tempe against Arizona State. So that did not work out. So all of the Louisiana teams are out there. And then baseball, I think it's on Memorial Day. It's next Monday that we get the regional field. So that's going on. Also going on, this is the part of the show Jim's been waiting for, the French Open. French Open started yesterday, the second Grand Slam of the tennis year. Jim, I will give you $500 if you can tell me the country where each of these players is from.
You're gonna give me $500. I gotta tell you all of them.
You got to tell me the country.
Golf is an American.
Okay, you got one.
All right. Let's see.
No Googling allowed.
I'm not Googling. You can hear me. I'm not typing anything. I'm going to guess Sabalenka's from Czechoslovakia. Czech Republic.
I can't remember where she's from. I think it may be Serbia.
Okay, same area.
Swiatek, the favorite, the heavy favorite, odds-on favorite there. She's from Poland. And Simona Halep is from Romania, and Maria Sakkari is from Greece. So now you know. Now you know. I will say this, though. Long shot I like here. And you guys argue with me if you know what you're talking about.
I'm not going to argue about tennis.
Do you follow tennis at all?
I haven't kept up too close, honestly.
Amanda Anisimova, there at 22-1, is an American player who won the Madrid Open a couple of weeks ago, which is a clay court tune-up for the French Open. She also beat Naomi Osaka today in the first round. So I think everybody's heard of Naomi Osaka.
Where's Serena?
And Serena is not playing. Osaka is out.
I'm not watching it.
And so Swiatek is your favorite. But Anisimova at 22-1, you could do a lot worse than that. I'm just saying. If I'm taking a long shot.
If there's no Serena and no Venus, I'm not watching.
In tournaments like this, you can't bet a -150 favorite. There's 128 players, for crying out loud. And none of these players are all that accomplished. I think Halep has a couple of Grand Slams. She may have the most in the field. So I'm going to take a long shot. I'm going to take Anisimova at 22-1.
And
the men's players.
Wait, hold on. Why aren't you just telling Spencer to you would take his bet? I mean, do you really know anything about this, or you just throwing money in the wind?
I played high school tennis. I follow tennis a little bit.
Weren't we just talking about bad bets?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Thanks for being there for me. Thanks for having my back. You're right.
It's okay. I mean, if you want to have a little fun and bet a couple bucks, but don't advocate people.
But listen, betting Amanda Anisimova at 22-1 to win the French Open is a little bit different than betting the Raging Cajuns at 600-1 or whatever they were.
I'm just going to say this. You've taken that graphic's been off the screen about 20 seconds now, and I couldn't spell her. I was looking at it for a minute. If you asked me, if you told me you're going to be $500 if I could spell her name right, I wouldn't win. I wouldn't even take the bet.
I'm disappointed in you. I'm disappointed. You probably heard of some of these guys, though. You hear your
I know odds. A lot of these guys, yeah.
So the absolutely amazing thing
Joker
is that Rafael Nadal, who is the king of Roland Garros, the king.
Yeah, but is he like 36 now?
He's 4-1. Yes, but he's 38, 39, but he won the Australian Open this year. I mean, the guy's still got game. He's 4-1 to win this tournament.
Which John McEnroe?
I will. He's in the TV booth. Okay. I will say that Carlos Alcaraz is 20 or 21. He just beat Nadal and Djokovic back to back in Madrid. So
sounds like he should be in jail.
I mean, he not Alcatraz.
Oh, okay.
He may be the next Nadal. So keep an eye on him. Djokovic and Nadal both cruised through the first round today. Interesting thing here.
I'm betting on a guy named Sinner. I'm going to go put. I want to put money on him, dude.
Speaking of sinning, the guys in the last line are Russian players. Wimbledon is not allowing Russian players this year, but the French Open is. So we'll get a little geopolitical here for you.
They're the French, of course they are.
Wow, French. Medvedev was in the final of the Aussie Open. You could do worse. He's not a great clay court player, but 35-1. You want to take a shot?
I'm betting on Sinner. I'm telling you right now. I'm going. As
soon
as the show's over, I'm going to put money on.
Go play some bingo.
Absolutely doing it.
Go play some bingo.
Tennis bingo.
Yannick Sinner, I think he's Italian.
I'm going to do a parlay on Sinner and what's her name? The one I couldn't spell.
Anisimova?
Anisimova. That's what I'm doing.
Listen. If you actually do that, you've got to screenshot it. We're showing it at the book on Thursday. Yannick Sinner, an Italian player. And has actually been ranked as high as world number 9. So you could do worse than Yannick Sinner and Amanda Anisimova.
It's going to happen.
We're going to do it. In the meantime, Heat Celtics tonight. PGA was fantastic. NBA final starting up in a week. U.S. Open coming. Lots to talk about. Spencer the Guru, your final thought on this Monday.
Yeah, this has been a lot to talk about, and no football today. No, it was breakers. I mean, so there were a little bit
breakers.
There. No NFL today. So it's like the NFL somehow finds a way to creep up in there. But yeah, I've actually got in the middle of a startup dynasty draft for fantasy football. So it's still fantasy football on my end. And it's always something going on with that. And then it'll be interesting to see where Chris Olave ends up going there. I'll keep y'all posted on that.
Yeah, that will be interesting. That'll be good. And let me tell you this, while we're talking about the NFL, I had a friend ask me yesterday my favorite futures bets, and I gave him the Saints at 5-1 to win the NFC South and the Vikings at plus 260 to win the NFC North.
Love it.
So those are the two I like. I also think Kansas City's plus 160 to win the AFC West could do a lot worse than that.
Can
I
you
think
parlay
Denver,
that stuff?
I don't believe so. But Denver and the Chargers are getting a little overhyped, in my opinion. I kind of like Kansas City plus 160. So, Jim, your
Kansas City's plus 160 to win the division?
They're plus 160 to win the division.
You're kidding. That's like free money.
Okay. Well, that's why people watch this show. Go get it.
Well, you and I don't know that we've ever agreed on 3 bets thrown out there in a row.
That's terrifying.
All 3 of those are wonderful values. I agree with all 3 of them wholeheartedly. So you're screwed. All right.
That's what I was thinking.
My final thoughts is I'm wondering if we can find a way how to mute Uncle Big Nick from the comment stream.
How much are you going to bet on that, though? Because his latest comment, I think, is probably pretty accurate.
I told you I was going to bet $10 on it.
I don't think I'm just checking. I don't think you can parlay those futures. I mean, even the tennis ones. So
okay. Well, I'm going to bet $10 on Sinner and whatever her name is. I'll remember it when I say it.
All right.
And if it goes to show that if this bet wins, you don't have to know jack about jack to win money betting on tennis.
And if you do know a lot, you still lose sometimes. So that's how that happens too. My final thought is I still have faith in the Boston Celtics. If they can get consistently healthy, I still think they win the NBA title.
Robert Williams is back tonight.
I agree.
Robert Williams is back tonight. Tatum and Marcus Smart both left the game on Saturday night, but they came back, and they're supposed to play tonight too. I still think Boston's the best team in the NBA, but we'll see. We'll know more on Thursday. That series
value in the NBA.
That series will be through 5 games by Thursday, so we'll talk. But I'm not hedging. I have a couple of futures bets. I have 11-1 to win the East and 8-1 to win the championship, and I have buyout options on those bets. I'm not taking them. I'm riding with Boston, so we will see what happens. Condolences to those of you who bet on Mito and lost. Sorry, Jim. And Jim, who you got on Datitude this week, Jim?
Don't know yet. Trying to figure out what direction we're going as far as what we're going to talk about. Last week we had Doug Mouton on Friday, and apparently people couldn't wait to listen to Doug Mouton because it's one of our better shows yet. If you haven't listened yet, it was a pretty fun conversation talking about the Saints and Pelicans, mostly about the Saints and the signings that they've had. Pretty good show, and I think we'll have another good show Friday. I just don't know no, not Uncle Big Nick. It will not be Uncle Big Nick.
All right. So a surprised attitude coming in also on Thursday at 4:00. We'll be live at the book right here on bet.nola.com. Our thanks to Caesar Sportsbook and Tulane Doctors. For Jim Derry and Spencer the Guru Urquhart, I'm Zach Ewing. Have a good day, everybody. And I forgot I'm producing today, so I got to play the music now. Have a good one.